We had the NFL honors last night. Ton of awards given out. I think we're going to start with that MVP. Josh Allen wins the MVP. All the votes made public. I loved going back to my hotel room and say, this guy voted for him. This guy voted for her or him. It was awesome to see. Congratulations to Josh Allen. What did you guys make of the NFL honors and that award in particular?
Well, we both voted for Josh Allen. Look, I had no reservations voting for him, but it was tough. I really wavered back and forth. I'm sure you did too, between him and Lamar Jackson. It wouldn't have surprised me at all if they split it, and I would have been okay with that. I really, when I looked at it, it was a tough decision, but in the end, I went with Josh Allen because, look, he did more with less. He has nothing around him. I mean, when you compare him to Derrick Henry being an MVP candidate in that backfield as well. So I went with Josh Allen for both, by the way.
Yeah, to that point, I did not understand the voters splitting their vote. That didn't make any sense at all to me when voters said, okay, I'm going to vote this guy first team all-pro quarterback. I'm going to vote this guy MVP. So let's throw that out. That logic doesn't make sense. I didn't get any voter fatigue about Lamar Jackson. Oh, he's won 2 MVPs. He shouldn't win it a third time. Oh, Josh Allen hasn't won it, but he's been so close. Now, forget that. I don't care about that. Shohei Ohtani should win the AL MVP every year. LeBron James should have won more MVPs in the 2010s. That part doesn't matter to me. You also got to leave your bias at the door when you are a voter. Like, I've interviewed Lamar Jackson several times. I don't know that I've ever in my life spoken a word to Josh Allen. You can't consider. I saw Josh Allen play in person against the Chiefs and the Lions. I did not see Lamar Jackson play this year. Josh Allen didn't have those big standalone games at the end of the year, whereas Lamar Jackson did, right? He played on Christmas. You can't worry about that. Lamar had the tougher division. Josh didn't. And so now down the stretch when he's playing the Jets, well, that game kind of doesn't matter. Lamar was playing in meaningful games down the stretch. Then you had the head-to-head. 35-10, Lamar Jackson's Ravens won. And Josh Allen did not play that well. However, you had Derrick Henry rush for 200 yards in that game. And then you look at who they had some bad games, right? Lamar had a bad game against Pittsburgh, and Josh Allen had a bad game against Houston. Okay, we can throw those out. But the fact that Josh Allen beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, he's the only quarterback to have done that in the last year plus. The fact that he beat the number 1 seed in the NFC, the Detroit Lions. He went 13-3 to Lamar Jackson's 12-5. He had one of the league's best offenses. All of those things, and Pete, to your excellent point starting out, he did more with less. And that's why Josh Allen, for me, was number 1 in MVP voting. And there's no doubt for me that Lamar Jackson was top 2, and he was number 2 for me.
That's where I want to pick up the dribble, because Pete made a great point. You just hammered it home. Doing more with less. That Ravens roster is a really, really, really good one. Defensively, offensively, they go add Derrick Henry in the offseason as the catalyst to get them over the hump against the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, lo and behold, they never even had the opportunity to go dismantle that Chiefs dynasty. Josh Allen went out there and kicked ass all season long. He was fantastic. Both quarterbacks did.
Both did.
But to your point, Josh Allen did more with less all season long, and I loved watching him play. I think that it could have been a split shared MVP, but I'm not frustrated with the results.
I wouldn't have been frustrated with either result.
Josh Allen earned it.
Neither would I.
Yeah.
Neither would I.
If Lamar Jackson, honestly, going into honors, I thought that Lamar Jackson was going to win because, again, I don't understand the split vote logic. And I'm totally okay with what Lamar Jackson had, what, in my opinion, would have earned that MVP if he would have been awarded that.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we talked about this earlier, off air. It's unfair to Josh Allen to now say, well, there's a little asterisk next to his MVP,
no, that's BS.
and he won it because people felt bad for him for coming close. I don't buy any of that. No. He won the MVP. He earned the MVP. But again, it was a tough vote, and you both, we talked about that. That was close for both of us.
As players, you have to earn, scratch, claw, everything that you get in the National Football League, and credit to Josh Allen for not only accepting the award with such grace, but shining light on all the other guys who could have also won the award. He said, look, you guys should also be up here too. A lot of class from Josh Allen, and to your point, there's no pity awards.
There's no pity awards.
There's no voter fatigue. No. Whoever's the best, whoever's doing it relative to other people better, that's who's going to win the award.
And, you're talking to 2 of the 50 voters for that, and there's a lot of conversation around the voting. I appreciated that they made the votes public.
I have no problem with it.
I have no problem because I went into the vote.
I loved that.
I went into the vote like, look, I want to be accountable. then go ahead and show my vote. If that's what you want to do, then that's okay. I know I put in the hours for it. I know that I'm able to justify it. You may disagree with me. You may say Lamar Jackson's the MVP, and you and I are both saying that's fine. That's fair. But I know that I put in the work behind it, and you can show it, AP. That's fine.
I'm the same way.
Yep.
Whatever you want. You show all my stuff. I don't care.
Okay, we're going to move on to some other takeaways from NFL honors. We'll start at the top of the list with the Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell, who's only a couple years older than myself. Sometimes I look at Kevin O'Connell and I say, what the hell am I doing with my life? That guy's leading the Minnesota Vikings. He's a brilliant coach, and he brought home the Coach of the Year last night. What did you guys take away from that?
I had Dan Campbell number one. I had Kevin O'Connell number two. I had Dan Campbell number one because of what they did in the final game of the season, winning the NFC. But, yeah, Kevin O'Connell was number two for me, Pete.
Yeah, and the vote is done by Monday. You have to do it the
That's
Monday
right.
after that game. So you take into account the entire season. I voted for Kevin O'Connell in large part because he did it with a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And I know the Lions had all those injuries on defense and had to deal with that. So, yeah, I understand why Dan Campbell could be the choice. But I went with a guy who played with a backup quarterback all year long and won 14 games.
Yeah, you had the backup quarterback argument. I had the look at all of the attrition they've had for injuries. And then for me, it was the final game of the season where they got the home field advantage and they kind of pantsed him. But, yeah, congratulations to Kevin O'Connell.
It's a testament to how close this league is and how much parity there is, even at the coaching ranks. Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell, two of these guys that if either one of these guys got the award, we'd be having a good conversation up here about it. I'm going to move on to the Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley, kind of a no-brainer. What do you guys think about Saquon this year?
I voted for him as well. Look, it was amazing. I mean, 2,000 yards and could have probably broke the record had he played longer in that final week of the season.
Yeah.
So I was really amazed at how well he played. But more than that, the offense is all about him. He makes it all go. The offensive line, we talk about it all week. It's great, but that guy is special now.
The Offensive Player of the Year award for me is not the MVP award.
Correct.
Right? MVP, you put that value on valuable, so it can't really go, I don't think it should go to a quarterback here. Jamar Chase had a hell of a season, right? Triple Crown winner, and a lot of years he is the Offensive Player of the Year. But when Saquon Barkley does what he did at the running back position, and everything that we had talked about at the running back position as well, how we saw him carry that team, for me, it was a no-brainer, but man, Jamar Chase, I'll tell you what, most years Jamar Chase is the Offensive Player of the Year.
How did you vote? Did you vote Barkley and then Chase won too?
I believe I did.
I did too.
Yep.
You know, I was sitting around the campfire, as it were, last night with my older brother. We were having a couple adult beverages. We were talking about these awards, and I brought up the fact that Saquon Barkley, his numbers were diminished because of the fact that Jalen Hurts and that offense for the Eagles, they elect to go tush-push in short yardage situations, goal line situations. How many touchdowns did we miss out on for Saquon Barkley, and would that have led to a different conversation for the top of the list point, that MVP spot? Joe Burrow, Comeback Player of the Year, he's been fantastic. But I want to talk about the two Rookies of the Year, offensive and defensive. Jaden Daniels, no-brainer, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Could we see him MVP conversation next year?
Yes. Absolutely.
You think so?
I think so. They have a lot of money to spend. They're going to add to the roster, and they're going to get better. So, yeah, I think he will be.
I do understand that theory that they're only going to get better. I also think that there's a theory out there that maybe they overachieved this past season. And I'm not throwing any shade, but nobody thought that the Commanders were going to be in the NFC Championship game. And so now that's the bar for them. That is what a lot of voters, a lot of folks are going to be comparing them to. Like, okay, are you as good? Are you as prolific? Can you throw for 5 touchdowns against the Philadelphia? And so we've seen teams falter and quarterbacks falter with those great expectations after an incredible year one. I don't know that it is certain that that's coming back year two.
Normally, the great quarterbacks don't falter in year two if they have that good first year. C.J. Stroud kind of tailed off a little bit. I get it. I know where you're going with that, based on that. But this team is, with him being that guy, this is that guy.
He is that guy.
He's that guy. And so they're not falling off anyway. For the next decade, you don't have to worry about that team ever. They're going to be in the mix. They will be in the mix the next decade.
You know who else doesn't have to worry about that team? A guy in London, Dan Snyder.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a good one, JJ. And you know what? Another good one. Jared Verse, Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was fantastic, particularly down the stretch. The Rams have a lot to look forward to with the youth in that room. You know what? We got a special guest here. Debo is going to bring out some fried chicken strips. We've got the Louisiana what is this, Louisiana fish fry products. They also make a spicy chicken fry, chicken batter mix. And you know, we did gumbo and potato salad, gumbo and rice yesterday.
What is
this
that?
Is my speed right here. And look at this. You got a little spicy aioli here.
I want the spicy then.
Shout out to the Louisiana fish fry products. They've been taking care of this big old belly all week. We appreciate you here on Radio Row in New Orleans, Louisiana. What are we doing if we're not getting a little spicy?
Spicy.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that on
And it's too bad if it's spicy, you're covered up your head because you were sweating on top of the head.
I'm a big sweater when I eat spice, so I'm going to wear the hat.
You say big belly, man. You look very svelte.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys want to talk about anything while I down this chicken finger? What do you got?
What do you got? Defensive player of the year
to you last night?
Yeah, what about defensive player of the year? I voted for Patrick Surtain. I think he's been great all year long. And to be honest with you, it wasn't that tough of a decision for me. I thought it was a pretty easy one.
Yeah. I did go with Pat Surtain as the defensive player of the year. For a while there, in early December, I was looking hard at TJ Watt. And I was looking at him because of the turnover production that he had. You know that every forced fumble that TJ Watt had was recovered by Pittsburgh. So, you know, sometimes, okay, you punch the ball out, and a lot of that fumble recovery is luck, no doubt about it. But he was making game-changing plays. And then the last, 4 weeks of the season, he didn't make any more game-changing plays.
No hitter.
You know, and so it was hard to do that. You look at what Pat Surtain is doing. You want the ball production more out of the corner, and then you remember, oh, yeah, guys are scared to throw his way. There's not going to be ball production. I'm glad that he got that award.
Yeah,
well, one
question.
thing we're going to be taking a look at is production of the defense from the Philadelphia Eagles in this Super Bowl. They're on turf. They really enjoy turf. I'm going to turn this over to you, Jonathan Jones, a brilliant mind, a beautiful mind, as it were. Tell me about the Philadelphia Eagles and the advantage that they have on the turf.
Okay, so let's go back 2 years, and let's remember, of course, that Super Bowl in Arizona, and the grass was terrible. They overwatered it.
Allegedly. Slipping and sliding.
Yeah, nobody could really get anything. There were 2 sacks by the Chiefs the entire time, and they were really on Jalen Hurts scrambles for -1 yard, so it didn't really matter. The Eagles, who had one of the best pass rushes that the league had seen in years, could not get to the quarterback. Well, when you consider what the Philadelphia Eagles have done on grass versus turf, we both know that these are 2 great teams. But when you look at the splits on grass versus turf, the Philadelphia Eagles defense is by far, the best defense in the NFL when it comes to turf. I want to give you just a couple of notes here on the defense on turf. When you look at it, look at this. Great graphic. Points allowed. Best in the NFL when it comes to games on turf. Best in yards per game. Best in pass yards allowed per game. And then look at that sack percentage. You put them on the turf, they are getting after the quarterback like no one else. And look,
how many games and who were they against?
It was roughly 5. And I mean, you know, they weren't against, they played the Giants, for example, right? So they're on that.
Saints.
Right. But remember, that was a week 3 game against the Saints that were 2-0, right?
Right.
And so when you consider this, we all know, and Kyle, I want you to speak to this about turf and what sort of advantage or disadvantage it can be for a team depending on what side of the football you're on.
Well, I was in my comfort zone playing at Soldier Field because we had that pasture-length grass that slowed down the rushers, and it kind of leveled the playing field for all the athletes on the field. The fatties and the skinnies, they were all the same speed on that grass. But when you play in turf, when you're going down to Houston, I remember playing against J.J. Watt in Houston, and it was a nightmare because these guys have incredible grip on the ground. It's, forced through the ground. Their cleats are solid. You mentioned the Philadelphia-Kansas City Super Bowl where they didn't have their footing, and the strength, the teeth of that defense wasn't able to show because they couldn't get their footing. A guy like Jalen Carter on the turf presents so many more issues, changes of direction, things of that nature, and boy, oh boy, is it scary for an offensive lineman.
Yeah, but it's also countered by the fact that Patrick Mahomes, I think, is 15-0 inside in domes and averages over 300 yards passing inside in domes. I mean, so there are, and they're faster. Xavier Worthy is also faster inside.
Right.
And so it kind of counterbalances a little
There's
bit.
no doubt. And I think Chris Jones is absolutely going to love the turf as well, right? And so there's no doubt about any of that. But I do know and believe that the Philadelphia Eagles know those stats and are comforted by those stats this week.